At Christmas dinner, my daughter pushed me aside and said, "That chair is for my mother-in-law." Move. I fell in front of the whole family. That night, I made a decision that changed everything. When she woke up the next morning, Christmas Eve in Charlotte was meant to glow with warmth, to hum with the small music of family, laughter spilling from the kitchen, the scent of cinnamon and roasted ham drifting through open doors. But that night, the air inside my daughter's house carried a sharp chill that had nothing to do with winter. The table stretched long and gleaming beneath the chandelier, polished to perfection, as though no real meal had ever been served upon it. I ran my fingertips over its surface, feeling the cold, mirror-smooth finish. It looked more like a monument than a table meant for family. At its head stood the chair that had once belonged to Arthur, my husband. Since his passing, I had taken that seat at every gathering, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every Sunday dinner. It wasn't about authority. It was about memory. It was about keeping a piece of him alive at the head of the family we had built with bare hands and calloused hearts. Sitting there felt like holding on to the last trace of belonging. Maris emerged from the kitchen, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood, each step a verdict. Behind her came Caleb, her husband, carrying a bottle of wine with a smile too measured to be sincere. And then, floating in with all the grace of a queen entering her court, was his mother, Beatrice, draped in pearls, her lips curved into a smile that never touched her eyes. I caught the flicker of something between them, an exchange of glances, a small tilt of Beatrice's chin, Maris's nod. It was the kind of silent conversation people have when they're about to make something final. Then Maris's voice broke the air like the crack of glass. "Mother, you'll need to move." For a heartbeat I didn't understand. I steadied my hands on the tablecloth, my voice calm. "This has always been my seat." Her tone hardened, her jaw tight. "Not tonight." The laughter of my grandchildren faded instantly. Caleb shifted uneasily. Even Beatrice's smile thinned to a patient smirk. "That place," Maris continued, "belongs to my mother-in-law." For a moment, everything inside me went still. The clock ticked from the mantel. A fork slipped from Jonah's hand and clattered against his plate. "I will not rise for anyone," I said quietly. "Arthur and I built this family. I will not be erased from its table." Maris's eyes darkened. She came around the table, her perfume trailing behind her, sharp, floral, suffocating. Her hand pressed hard against my shoulder. I felt the weight of it, the pressure of her resentment. And then, suddenly, she pushed. I stumbled backward, the floor catching me with a brutal thud. Pain flared along my hip, sharp and hot. Jonah cried out. Little Ava froze, her eyes wide with confusion. Caleb moved as if to help, but Beatrice's gaze, cold and commanding, stopped him mid-step. "This seat," Maris said again, her voice like stone, "is for my mother-in-law." I drew a slow breath, gathering what was left of my dignity as I rose. "Careful, Maris," I whispered, leaning close enough that only she could hear. "This house, and your comfort, sit on my signature, not his." Her face paled, but I didn't wait to see the full meaning settle in. I turned, lifted my coat from the rack, and walked toward the door. The night outside cut at my face with icy wind, but it was a cleaner cold than what I'd left behind. The farmhouse was dark when I returned. The December air followed me in, threading through the cracks like old grief. I switched on a single lamp and sat in my armchair, pressing a bag of ice to my bruised hip. The sting steadied me more than it hurt. After a while, I rose and crossed to the cedar cabinet. From the back, I drew out a small fireproof box, its metal cold as betrayal. The lock clicked open with a sound that seemed to echo through my bones. Inside lay the scaffolding of our family's fortunes, the documents everyone had conveniently forgotten. There it was, the deed to this farmhouse still in my name, the lien on Maris's glittering SUV, the guarantee on their mortgage, and buried beneath them all, a folder marked Hollis Construction, the company Caleb and Maris built their pride upon. Arthur's handwriting still lined the margins, firm even in his last years. I remembered that day, Caleb sitting at our kitchen table, hat in hand, his voice shaking as he explained no bank would lend to him. Maris beside him, glowing with the naive confidence of youth. I had taken their dream in my hands and given it life. Arthur and I co-signed the first loan. We didn't just help, we secured 35% of the company in return. They paraded it as their own, but they had always been standing on ground Arthur and I laid for them. I spread the papers across the table, the lamp casting thin shadows over them. Their signatures once looked so bold. Now they looked like children's drawings, lines of confidence drawn without understanding the weight of what they meant. I touched the worn wood of Arthur's chair and whispered, I won't let them erase me, Arthur. Not from this table. Not from what we built. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of a blank page: boundaries and consequences, and so I began. By midnight, my plan had taken shape. The first call I made was to Ruth Delgado, an old colleague from the college board, sharp-minded, unyielding, and trustworthy. When I told her what happened, she went silent for a moment, then said, "Revoke every proxy Maris holds, effective immediately." Next came Marcus Shaw, my accountant for over 20 years. "Freeze every discretionary transfer," I said. "Nothing moves without my signature." He hesitated. "Are you certain, Mrs. Elowen?" I pressed my palm against the cool tile of the bathroom wall, the cold grounding me. I have never been more certain. By the time I placed the last call to the locksmith, my tea had gone cold. "Change the locks on the guest house," I told him. "Tonight." When the line clicked off, I carried my teacup to the window. The fields outside shimmered under a skin of frost, silver and still. I whispered, "Tomorrow." And tomorrow came with precision. The morning after Christmas, Maris's world began to crumble quietly. By 7, her mortgage auto-pay bounced. By 8, her credit card declined at a boutique counter while she tried to distract herself with a designer scarf. By 9, Caleb called from the office, his voice stripped of its usual swagger. "The company accounts are frozen. Payroll can't clear." "What did you do, Maris?" By 10, she drove past the guest house, saw the locksmith's van, and realized something had changed. She tried her key anyway, twisting it hard, but it wouldn't turn. By 11, her calls began. 47 times that day she rang me. 47 times I let the phone ring into silence. At noon, I sent one message. 5 p.m., Church Hall. Bring nothing but honesty. When the bell tolled 5, I was already seated. The church hall smelled faintly of pine and candle wax. I'd set up 3 chairs opposite mine. Maris entered first, her face pale, eyes rimmed with red. Caleb followed, shoulders heavy. Beatrice came last, chin high, wearing her pride-like armor. "I have 4 conditions," I said. My voice did not waver. "They are not requests. They are the price of respect." Maris flinched, but I continued. "First, an apology. Public. To me and to your children. They watched what happened and they deserve to know it was wrong." Her lips parted, but no sound came. "Second," I said, lifting a paper, "every proxy right you hold in Hollis Construction is revoked, effective immediately." Caleb surprised us both. "I'll sign it," he said quietly. And he did. Third, 6 weeks of community service at the college where I taught. You'll learn what service means. Maris's cheeks flushed, and lastly, I said, meeting her eyes, "My time with Jonah and Ava is mine. No gatekeeping, no distance." Beatrice let out a low, bitter laugh. "This is theater, Elowen. You've lost your place." I met her gaze steadily. "This isn't revenge, it's reclamation." She said nothing more. Caleb signed the final line, the ink drying like closure. Weeks passed. The auditors found what I suspected. Maris had been preparing fraudulent documents, trying to transfer shares to Beatrice's name. The discovery nearly destroyed them. Caleb arrived one evening, pale and trembling, throwing the file on my table. "She could have ruined us," he said. "The banks would have pulled every line." I folded the file shut. "Then you know what must change." He nodded. When the next dividend arrived, I directed every cent toward a new cause, the Carver Scholarship Fund for single grandparents raising children. The announcement ran in the local paper, with my name attached, not theirs. Whispers began to circle Maris's social world. The women she once entertained over wine and gossip turned cool, their sympathy shallow. "She stole from her own mother," they murmured. I hadn't sought her humiliation. The truth had done that on its own. By summer, Consequence had done its quiet work. At the community college cafeteria, Maris stood in a faded apron, scrubbing trays as students passed by with smothered laughter. I watched from a distance once, unannounced. She moved clumsily, her manicured hands raw from soap and heat. Nora, the volunteer director, approached her with gentle firmness. "Respect isn't inherited, Maris," she said softly. "It's practiced." Maris didn't answer, but I saw the words settle somewhere inside her. Months later, on a crisp October evening, headlights cut across my farmhouse window. When I opened the door, there she was, Maris, carrying something heavy in her arms. It was the dining chair, the one I'd fallen from, the one that had splintered under humiliation, now repaired, sandpapered, varnished, whole again. She set it down carefully. "Where should this sit?" she asked, voice trembling. I placed my hand on the smooth wood where the break once was. "Where respect does," I said softly. "Beside me, not above me." Jonah and Ava burst through the door behind her, running into my arms, laughing. Their embrace was sunlight. Maris stood awkwardly for a long moment, watching us, her eyes softening. I touched the chair again, feeling both the scar and the strength in its repair. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. A year passed. Christmas returned. This time, dinner was at my farmhouse. The kitchen glowed with lamplight and the scent of cider and cinnamon. I set the table myself, old oak polished with care. At the head, a single-place card read one word: respect. Caleb carried dishes to the table, quieter than before. The grandchildren's laughter filled the air. Ava sneaked olives. Jonah teased her. It was the kind of chaos that sounded like healing. Then, in the doorway, came Beatrice. Slower now, smaller somehow. She met my eyes, hesitated, and whispered, "I was wrong." She took a seat halfway down the table. No crown, no throne, just a chair. When dinner began, Maris rose. In her hand was a brass key, the one I'd taken when the locks were changed. She placed it gently in the center of the table. "I'll knock from now on," she said. Silence followed, then Jonah reached for another roll, and laughter, real, fragile laughter, rose again. I laid my hand on the repaired chair beside me, tracing its smooth scar, and whispered, "Chairs can be moved. Dignity stays anchored." The candles flickered, the key caught the light, and for the first time the air between us felt almost like peace,